Hello friends, welcome back to your practice. Today's class is one of a series that I lovingly call Playtime with Blocks. So you will need 2 blocks, and we are going to use those blocks as a way to find our midline, hugging in, also toning the inner thighs to give some stability to the pelvis and pain relief to the lower back. So let's get started laying on your back. Have those blocks close by. With your feet on the floor, knees bent. Take a moment, breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. One more inhale and exhale. Grab your block, place it in between your knees. Let's go medium setting and start to gently squeeze into that block. As you do that, feel your inner thighs turn on. See if you can find a greater connection to your lower belly, so much that you feel your hip bones draw towards each other. From here, reach your arms straight up in the air, reach for the ceiling, breathe in. When you breathe out, take your arms overhead as far as you can, keeping the ribs down, maintaining a mostly neutral spine, squeezing the block. And then reach your arms to the ceiling, curl up into a little crunch. Now you can see your lower abs. Make sure they're not doming up, poking up towards the ceiling, but everything is hollowing towards the floor. Inhale as you lower and reach your arms to the sky. Try to keep those ribs down. And then exhale, bring it forward, crunch up. Inhale, lower down. Keep your head and your shoulders on the floor. Rest your arms by your sides. Breathe in. Squeeze the block. Come up onto your tippy toes. And then as you squeeze the block, float your knees up to a 90-degree angle. Tabletop your legs. Then you can choose to flex your ankles. But you keep squeezing the block like crazy. I'm already starting to shake. Knees are stacked over hips, low belly in. Try to maintain that deep core connection. The hip flexors are going to help you out here, and that is totally okay. But we want to maintain that core connection. Take a breath in. And then exhale. Lower your legs, tap the floor. Come back up. And lower. For some stability, you can grab the edges of your mat. You could also put your hands underneath your hips to give yourself a little support. And you might not even tap the floor. Breathe in, squeeze the block. Breathe out, lower. Come back up. Squeeze the block, navel in. Come back up. Take that block in your hands. Hug your knees into your chest. Just give yourself a little squeeze. Rock and roll up and down the length of your spine. Find your way into a tabletop position. Then from here, once again, you're going to take that block in between your knees. Again, I'm going to go medium setting. You might go more narrow. It kind of depends on the size of your pelvis. And from here, I want you to squeeze the block and round your spine into cat. Push the floor away. Squeeze the block a whole lot. See if that helps you get a little more tuck of your tail. And then as you find your cow pose, relieve some of that pressure on the block. Think about isometrically moving your legs left and right. So you're not actually going to drop that block, but you think you might. Then hug everything in around your back, cat. Untuck your tail, widen your hands and your legs left and right. One more time in each direction. Squeeze everything in, and then rip the mat apart. Good. From here, squeeze the block, tuck your toes, hover your knees. Push the floor away. Squeeze the block, low belly in, but not so much that you're rounding your back here. So it's not cat, it's neutral. Downward facing dog, straighten the legs. You might have to walk your feet back and your arms forward so you're not in a squatty little dog, you're in a full length dog. Now my knees and my feet are a little bit wider than my hips here with this block on the medium height. So I'm actually going to put it on the lowest setting, higher up on the thigh bones. So when you look at your legs here in your downward facing dog, your hips, your knees, and your ankles make nice vertical parallel lines. So no V shape here. It's a lot more narrow than you think it is. Take a breath and let it go. Walk your hands back to your feet. You're going to bend your knees, sit into a chair. Now again, my legs are parallel, so my feet are roughly as wide as the block, maybe a tiny bit wider, not as narrow as you think it is. I promise you, your hips are not that wide, because we're thinking about the bones and not the outermost flesh of your hips. Sitting into your chair, toes are on the floor, but they're light. Drive your weight into your heels, squeeze the block like crazy. Pull that low belly in nice and tight. Breathe in. Breathe out, stand up, squeeze your block as you cactus your arms and lift your chest. Inhale, stretch the arms up. Grab the left wrist, side bend over to the right. I want you to squeeze more with your left thigh. Feels a little counterintuitive. Inhale to come up, switch the grip, squeeze the block, bend up and over to your left. Now you're squeezing more with your right leg. Inhale to come back up. Exhale, dive it forward, fold. Inhale, halfway, long spine. Walk your hands to the top, downward facing dog. I like my heels to be a little higher here and soft bend in the knees so that I can find a little more neutral curve in the lower back and the pelvis. Feels like I'm untucking my tail. Set that block aside for a moment. Send your right leg high, strong and straight. Bend your knee, stack your hips. Squeeze your heel to your butt. Take an inhale. Exhale, curl your knee into your nose. Round your spine here. Rock way forward and load your arms so you can step your right foot in between your hands. Drop your knee. Grab your block. Come all the way up. Block's going to go in your hands out in front of you, trying not to use the fingers, but just the palms to hold the block. So we got some chest and bicep work for us. Bend your elbows to 90 degrees. Keep those elbows hugging in, about shoulder height. And now you're going to bring those elbows higher so they're more in line with your eyes. And that block is just skimming past your forehead. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Bring it back down to 90 degrees. Extend the elbows. Lower the block. Straighten the back leg. Twist your right arm to the sky. Hug your legs towards each other. Use your left hand just for balance. This is a leg pose. Hands to the earth, step it back, downward facing dog. Inhale the left leg high, bend your knee, stack your hips. Inhale. Exhale, curl knee to nose, round, push the floor away, make some space to step your left foot between your hands, drop your knee. Grab your block as you come up, out in front of you. Hug your legs towards each other like you had a block there. That's going to give you some stability, some strength. And then push your palms into the block, bend your elbows to 90 degrees, hug everything in. Start to lift those elbows higher, keeping that 90-degree bend, keeping the ribs down. Squeeze in. Bring the elbows back down to 90, extend the arms out in front of you, lower the block, straighten the back leg for that nice low lunge twist. Left arm high. Hug the legs towards each other once again. Breathe in. Breathe out. Hands to the earth. Step forward and fold. Grab that block once again, put it in between your upper inner thighs. Sit into your chair. Squeeze the block. Really squeeze your knees around the block, because the block is going to actually move your upper inner thigh bones apart, widening the back of the pelvis and seating your femur bones deep in your hip sockets where they belong. Squeeze an imaginary block between your hands. Take an inhale. Exhale, stand up, cactus the arms, go back. Inhale, stretch up. Exhale, dive forward. Inhale, lengthen your spine. Now, the fun part, keep the block. Hands stay on the floor. Chaturanga, jump back. It might be more of a waddle. High plank. downward facing dog. Inhale to a high plank. Exhale, chaturanga. Back to high plank. Down dog. High plank. Chaturanga. Plank. Down dog. High plank. Chaturanga. High plank. Down dog. Stay here. Take a breath in. And a breath out. Again, breathe in. Breathe out. Now walk your hands back. Find a nice squatty dog so that you can move this block and place it in between your calves. You can go anywhere on the calves that is comfortable. If you have a cork block down by your ankles, is not going to feel very good, so keep it on flesh. Then once you have that situated, remember, don't let your feet go too wide. You're going to come forward into a plank pose. Right hand will stay on the earth. You have a side plank. Take your left arm to the sky. Now it's a very different experience with this block between the legs. Squeeze. Dorsiflex your ankles, drive out through the heels. And then switch. Left hand finds the floor. Swivel to the other side. Take your time. Squeeze, especially with this top leg. High plank. Chaturanga low plank. High plank. Downward facing dog. Breathe in. Breathe out. Keeping that tension on the block. High plank. Again, you have a side plank. Right hand stays. Not quite as long this time. Inhale to plank. If you're wobbling, good job. Switch sides. Inhale, plank. Exhale, chaturanga. High plank. Downward facing. Breath in. Breath out. Set that block aside. Inhale, bring it forward to a high plank. Lower all the way to your belly. Take your block. We're going to go one block between the thighs. And then your other block is going to go in between your hands. Head and neck relaxed. So this is not a back bend. Relax your shoulders, relax your head. Squeeze the block with your thighs. Make your legs strong. Tone your lower belly. And then the block in your hands behind you. Now at first, you're going to grab with your fingers. So roll the shoulders onto your back and stretch away. The tendency is to want to rip the block apart. Your hands want to go out to the sides. I'm going to see if we can push the palms into the block. Take the fingers off. And if you have to bend your elbows like I am, that's totally okay. And then grab with the fingers, straighten the arms, lift the shoulders. Take the fingers off the block, squeeze with the palms. I'm shaking. And then lower that down, rest. Big breath in. And a breath out. Breath in. And breath out. All right. Bend your knees. Take your block. Put it between your heels. Now, if you have cork blocks that are a little heavier, this is going to be even more exciting for you. Make a pillow out of your hands for your forehead. Knees are a little wider than your hips. Squeezing the block with your heels. Take a breath in. And when you breathe out, lift your hips. Sorry, not lift your hips. Cut that. Breathe in. Low belly in. Keep your hips stable on the floor. Squeeze your butt and lift your thighs. And then slowly lower down, rest. Breathe in. Breathe out, do it again, lift. Trying to keep your hip bones, your pubic bone on the floor, lifting your thigh bones as you squeeze the block. 3, 2, 1, lower down. One more time, breathe in. Breathe out, lift. 3, 2, 1, lower down. Whew. Lower your legs, let that block fall where it is. Give your legs a little shimmy, a little shake. Bend your knees, windshield wiper. Especially if you start to feel those in your lower back. Remember that for next time, and don't lift up quite as high. Learning how to separate lumbar extension and hip extension. Take a breath. Let it go. Again, breathe in. And breathe out. With your knees about hip width distance, sit back into a child's pose. So if you go narrow with your legs, it's going to be more of a stretch for the back of your hips and your lower back. Plus your upper body has a nice little shelf that it can rest on. When you're ready, walk your hands underneath your shoulders and lift yourself up. We have a camel pose. So for our camel pose today, we're going to use the block. You're going to place it on the medium width in between your calves, highest setting. Now I'm going to squeeze the block into my legs, or my legs into the block. Interlace your hands back behind you. So this is more about getting length and lift than it is going back, although they're definitely both involved. When you go back, find the block with your knuckles. Push your knuckles into the block and send your chest up. Squeeze between your shoulder blades. Squeeze the block with your legs. Tone the low belly. Push your knuckles down, lift your chest up. And then slowly lift yourself up, let your head be last. Flip that block down to its lowest setting and sit. Breathe in. Breathe out. Good. Move your blocks out of the way. Come to lying down on your back. Take a big inhale and an exhale. Block is going to go in between your shins. Hug your knees into your chest. Arms go out wide. And drop your knees to your left. Trying to keep your thighs close to your chest so that my knees are higher than the level of the hips, less than 90-degree angle there. That's going to be less twist through the lower back, more twist, or maybe more intense twist. It doesn't look as deep of a twist into the thoracic spine. Take a breath in and breath out. Use your obliques to come back to center. And let's switch sides, keeping those thighs close to your chest. The block between the legs is really nice because it brings your legs closer to parallel. Whereas if I let my top knee rest on the bottom knee, that's actually a little more strain on the back of the hip, the SI joint. And if a knee doesn't get all the way to the bottom knee, then the block is nice because now that leg has something to rest on and it can relax into the twist even more. Breathe in. Breathe out. Come back to center. Set your block aside. Extend your arms and legs in opposite directions. Big full body stretch. And release, hands by your sides. Shavasana. Breathe in. Breathe out. Wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes. Bring some movement to your ankles and your wrists. Bend your knees, plant your feet. Roll to your side and find a comfortable seat. Inhale, reach your arms up overhead. Exhale, hands come down to your heart. Breathe in. Breathe out. Bow your chin to your chest. Rest your hands on your thighs. Lift your chin, open your eyes. Thank you so much for practicing with me today, friends. I'll see you next time.